I am Delea, 32 years old, and I never thought I would abandon my entire life overnight, but when my father slammed his fist on the table and demanded $350,000 to cover my sister Amanda's latest disaster, something inside me finally snapped. Years of being the family fixer, the responsible daughter, the eternal bailout fund all came crashing down with one sentence. I need the money tomorrow, no delays. I smiled and simply said, okay. He had no idea what that really meant. Before I dive deeper into this story, let me ask you something. Have you ever been pushed so far by family expectations that you almost stopped recognizing yourself? If you have, you'll understand the quiet rage that had been simmering inside me for years. Because this isn't just a story about money, it's about manipulation, guilt, and finally reclaiming my life. To understand why I disappeared that night, you need to know about my family. My father, John, was a real estate businessman, self-made and proud of it. He built his empire brick by brick with the same hands that ruled our household, unyielding, commanding, absolute. My mother, Susan, was the kind of woman who believed peace was worth any price. She filled silences with apologies, soothed tempers that weren't hers to soothe, and called it love. And then there was Amanda, 3 years younger than me, but decades behind in responsibility. She had charm, beauty, and a way of making every mistake look like a learning experience. When she crashed cars, they bought her new ones. When she failed classes, she got praised for trying her best. I was the opposite. Straight A's, 2 part-time jobs, scholarships. I was told I was the strong one. My mother said it like a compliment, but it was really a sentence. Amanda floated through life while I carried its weight. I worked my way through college, slept 4 hours a night, and still managed a 4.0 GPA. I never asked for help because I knew it wasn't available to me. When I graduated with honors, my parents came but left early because Amanda had an emergency. She'd broken up with a boyfriend she'd known for 2 weeks. I built my career in finance from the ground up, grinding late nights to become a senior advisor. By 29, I'd bought my own small home. Every dollar I saved, every vacation I skipped, it was all for the dream of one day traveling the world. That house was my pride, my proof that I could do it alone. Meanwhile, Amanda's disasters multiplied. Her first business venture failed within a year, taking $15,000 of my money with it. Then came a lawsuit over a married boyfriend, another $20,000 gone. Then her luxury apartment lease that she couldn't afford anymore, $35,000. Each time I stepped in, each time my father told me to help, each time I said yes. Until I didn't. At a tense dinner one night, I told them it was the last time. My father stared at me as if I'd just insulted God. What could be more important than helping your sister, he asked. My future, I said. My voice shook, but I meant it. He didn't. For a while, things were calm. I focused on work. On my boyfriend Michael, an architect with gentle hands and patient eyes. I was saving, planning a sabbatical, Thailand, Vietnam, Japan. I had every detail written in a journal. It wasn't just a trip, it was a dream of finally putting myself first. Then, one night, the phone rang. My father's voice was sharp, clipped, businesslike. Family meeting tomorrow, 8 a.m. sharp. When I arrived, the air was heavy. My mother was pacing, Amanda sobbing dramatically on the sofa. What happened? I asked. My father didn't waste time. Your sister owes $350,000. She borrowed from private investors. They want it in 2 days. I felt my stomach drop. $350,000 how? Retail space, renovations, marketing. Amanda mumbled, it was supposed to be my comeback. My father's gaze was cold, expectant. We need your help. You're the only one who can access that kind of money quickly. My help, I laughed bitterly. That's my entire savings. You can travel later, my mother said softly. Family comes first. Those words, family comes first, had always been my prison. They meant you come last. I tried to reason with them. What about Amanda's car? Her designer clothes, sell those. She's your sister. My father snapped, we won't humiliate her. And then it hit me. This wasn't just about money, it was about control. I was the family insurance policy, their guarantee that no mistake would ever have consequences. I need time to think, I said. You have until tomorrow morning, my father replied. He called that night to make sure I was figuring it out. When I hesitated, he said the words that finally broke me. If you can't do this, you're not the daughter I raised. Something inside me went quiet, not angry, just done. He had no idea that by the next morning I would be gone. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on my bed surrounded by travel journals and maps, tears falling onto the pages I'd filled over the years. Thailand, Vietnam, Japan, tiny colored pins marking dreams I'd postponed for too long. At 3 a.m., I realized something: I didn't owe them my future anymore. For years, I'd believed that being the good daughter meant self-sacrifice, but in that moment, I saw it for what it was: emotional blackmail disguised as love. Amanda would never grow if she never fell. My parents would never change if I kept saving them from consequences. So I made a plan, not a desperate escape, but a quiet, deliberate act of liberation. I would disappear. At dawn, I called Michael. I'm leaving. I said, tonight. He didn't try to stop me. He just said, I'm proud of you. Be safe. By noon, I'd arranged everything: unpaid leave from work, prepaid rent, automatic bills, flights booked. I packed one suitcase and my journals. I left behind a letter for my family, calm, factual, loving but firm. I listed every dollar I'd given, every promise Amanda had broken. I explained that I needed to leave to protect what was left of me. I didn't tell them where I was going, only that I loved them, but could no longer be their solution. When my father called again that afternoon to confirm the transfer, I said simply, okay. He thought it meant compliance. It meant goodbye. At 5 p.m., I locked my house, placed the letter and spare key on the welcome mat, and got into a taxi. As we pulled away, I looked out the window one last time at the home I had built on my own and whispered, never again. That night, my plane lifted off toward Bangkok, and I finally exhaled. For the first time in my adult life, I had chosen myself. When the wheels of the plane touched down in Bangkok, I felt as though I had crossed an invisible line between the life I was forced to live and the one I was finally choosing. The humid air wrapped around me like a physical presence, thick, warm, and alive, and for a fleeting moment, I wondered if it was the weight of freedom itself pressing against my skin. The first few days were a blur of movement. The colors, the smells, the endless sounds of scooters and street vendors. It was sensory chaos. But it drowned out the noise inside my head. I stayed in a small hotel tucked away from the tourist traps, with peeling paint and a balcony overlooking a tangle of rooftops. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. No one knew where I was. No one could reach me. Every morning, I would sit by the window, sipping tea from a chipped ceramic cup, watching the city wake up. The market below opened before dawn, and the vendors' laughter became my new alarm clock. I kept my phone off for the first week, afraid that if I turned it on, I would break the spell, that my father's voice would drag me back with a single command. But there were moments when guilt crept in, uninvited. Guilt has a way of speaking in familiar voices. You're selfish. You abandoned your family. Your sister could be in danger. At night, those voices echoed louder. I would lie awake, staring at the ceiling fan spinning lazily, wondering what they were doing back home. Were they furious, frantic? Or had they already replaced me with the idea that I'd always been the difficult one? On the fifth night, I gave in. I walked to an internet cafe, created a new email under a pseudonym, and sent a short message to Michael. I'm safe. Please don't tell them anything. I just need time. His reply came within hours. I won't say a word. Take the time you need. I'm proud of you. That message became my anchor. In the days that followed, I started rediscovering what it felt like to live without obligation. I learned how to navigate street markets, how to haggle in broken Thai, how to lose track of time without guilt. I made friends with a local cafe owner named Samchai, who taught me to fold lotus flowers while telling stories about his childhood. He never asked where I came from, only if I wanted more tea. For the first time in years, someone didn't want anything from me. 3 weeks later, I found an apartment near a temple where monks chanted every morning at sunrise. Their low, steady rhythm seeped into my bones, reminding me that peace didn't have to be earned through suffering, it could simply exist. I began writing again, not for anyone else, but for myself. Every word poured out like exhaled poison. Eventually, I found work teaching English part-time to children. Their laughter was unfiltered, genuine. It startled me at first, how easily joy could exist without permission. One night after class, I sat by the Chao Phraya River, watching lanterns drift across the dark water, and realized that for the first time in my life, I felt safe. Not in the physical sense, but emotionally safe. No one could demand my energy, my savings, or my obedience. The air was thick with jasmine and smoke from grilled street food, and I found myself smiling without reason. Then, a month after I'd left, I received an email from Michael. The subject line read, "They know." My heart pounded as I opened it. "Your father went to your house. He found the box. He read your letter. He was furious. Your mother cried. Amanda, she didn't seem to understand. But they know you're gone. Your dad said he'll report you missing. Don't worry, he can't. You're an adult. I told them you're safe. I didn't say where." I exhaled slowly, letting the tension flow out with my breath. He'd done exactly what I'd hoped he would, nothing more, nothing less. "Your mother's trying to call you," he continued. "She keeps saying you must be scared. I think she's more scared than you are." I closed my laptop and leaned back. Scared? No. For once. I wasn't scared at all. I was finally in control. Weeks turned into months. I traveled north to Chiang Mai, then crossed into Vietnam. Each border I crossed felt like another layer of old guilt peeling away. I sent Michael updates from internet cafes, short and careful. He replied with gentle humor and quiet affection that asked for nothing. 6 months after leaving, he wrote something that stopped me cold. "Your father had to sell 2 properties to pay off Amanda's debt. Your mom got a part-time job. Amanda's working at a store now. Funny how everyone figured out how to survive once you stopped saving them." I stared at those words for a long time. They were everything I had secretly hoped for, but never dared to believe possible. My absence had forced them to adapt. It hurt to think it had taken my disappearance to make them grow. But maybe that was the only language they could understand consequences. Still, late at night, I would think of my mother's soft voice and wonder if she hated me now. I thought of Amanda, of her wide eyes and trembling lips, and wondered if she saw herself as the victim. I thought of my father, sitting in his office, perhaps realizing for the first time that his control had limits. But even those thoughts began to fade, replaced by something else, peace. I started keeping a journal again, this time not about travel plans, but about healing. I wrote about the first morning I woke up without panic, about the day I realized I could laugh without guilt. I wrote about how freedom, at first, feels like falling, but then you realize it's flying. Months later, Michael joined me in Japan for 2 weeks. We wandered through Kyoto's quiet streets under cherry blossoms, the petals drifting like pink snow. He held my hand as if afraid I might vanish again, and for once, I didn't pull away. "On our last night," he said, "you know, they might actually be learning something from all this." "Maybe," I said softly, "but I didn't leave to teach them a lesson. I left to save myself." He nodded, understanding, and you did. When he left for home, I stayed behind, alone again, but not lonely. Because for the first time, solitude wasn't punishment, it was peace. Spring in Kyoto has a way of making you believe in new beginnings. The city was awash in pale pink petals, drifting like soft rain over cobblestone paths. I remember walking through the philosopher's path one morning, the air thick with the scent of cherry blossoms and incense from a nearby temple, and realizing that, for the first time in my life, I wasn't rushing anywhere. There was no meeting to attend, no call from my father demanding action, no emergency labeled as family. There was only me, breathing. 6 months had passed since I vanished. 6 months since I left behind my old self. The obedient daughter, the fixer, the invisible woman. Sometimes I still caught myself expecting my phone to ring with his voice cutting through the air like a blade. But it never came. That silence was both terrifying and freeing. Michael and I kept in touch through our quiet, coded emails. He told me about his projects, about a new house design inspired by movement and stillness. He said he understood that paradox better now. I think he meant me. Then, one night, while sitting at a riverside cafe, I received an email that made my hands tremble. From Michael, subject: update on your family. Your father sold 2 of his development properties to pay off Amanda's debt. Your parents had to downsize. Your mother took a part-time job at the library. Amanda is still working at the department store. She's been there for almost 5 months. I think they're finally living in the real world. I reread it twice, stunned. My father, the man who used to treat humility like a disease, was selling his assets. My mother, who once said women of her age didn't work, was behind a library desk, and Amanda, the perpetual storm, was showing up for work every day. Something inside me softened, but I didn't respond right away. Instead, I took my journal and wrote one line across a blank page. Sometimes absence is the only language change understands. In the months that followed, I traveled south through Vietnam and Cambodia, teaching English to local students in exchange for meals and shelter. It wasn't glamorous, but it was real. I woke up each day with purpose, not to serve someone else's crisis, but to exist fully in my own skin. Still, the guilt would sometimes rise uninvited, whispering in my ear late at night. I'd wonder if my mother missed me, or if Amanda ever looked at old photos and realized what she had cost me. I'd wonder if my father still believed he had the right to call me selfish. But then I would step outside, under a foreign sky, and remember that healing isn't about forgetting, it's about refusing to let the past dictate your present. After a year on the road, I found myself in Paris. The irony wasn't lost on me, my father's favorite city, the one he had always promised to take my mother to someday but never did. The streets were alive with music, laughter, and the smell of freshly baked bread. I spent my mornings writing in cafes, my afternoons wandering aimlessly, my evenings lost in the soft hum of conversations I didn't need to understand. One morning, as I sipped my coffee at a small cafe near the Seine, an email appeared in my inbox. The sender's name made my heart skip a beat. From Michael, subject: from your mother. I froze. My hand hovered over the touchpad. I wasn't ready. But curiosity, hope, maybe won out. Your mother gave me this letter to forward to you. Michael wrote, I didn't read it. I think it's something she needs to say directly. No pressure to open it. Just know it's here when you're ready. The attached file sat there, quiet and dangerous. I stared at it for hours before finally clicking. Dear Delea, I have started this letter 100 times and deleted it every time. There is no easy way to begin when what I owe you is the truth. You were right to leave, I see that now. I spent months being angry at you, angry that you walked away, angry that you didn't come back, angry that you forced us to face the consequences we had always avoided. But over time, that anger turned into understanding. Your father and I made you carry burdens that were never yours to bear. We told ourselves it was love, but it wasn't. It was fear. Fear of losing control. Fear of seeing the truth about the family we built on silence and guilt. Your father has changed, though he would never admit it out loud. He talks about you often now, sometimes in past tense, sometimes in regret. He still doesn't understand everything. But I think he finally realizes that love isn't control. Amanda, She's growing up, in her own slow way. She's been working steadily and taking night classes in business management. She says she wants to make you proud one day. I think she means it. I'm not asking you to come home. I just want you to know that you didn't destroy this family when you left. You helped it finally begin to heal. Wherever you are, I hope you're happy. You are loved, always. Love, Mom. By the time I reached the last line, the words were blurred by my tears. For years, I had waited to hear those 3 words, "You were right," and now they came wrapped in humility and sorrow. I spent the rest of that day walking aimlessly through the streets of Paris. The sky was a bruised blue, the kind that promised rain. But I didn't care. I felt light, like I'd been carrying a lifetime of invisible weight that had finally lifted. That night, I wrote back, "Dear Mom, thank you for your honesty. It means more than you know. I'm safe. I'm still traveling. I'm not ready to come home, but I'm glad to know you're finding your way. Maybe one day we can build something new, something real. Love, D." I didn't press send right away. I stared at the words, reread them, then finally let them go. 2 days later, Michael arrived in Paris. When I saw him at the airport, my chest ached with something like relief. We spent the next 2 weeks together, wandering through cobblestone streets, sharing wine at tiny cafes, laughing more than we had in years. One evening, while the sun melted over the Seine, he asked, "Do you ever think about going back?" I looked at him for a long moment. "Sometimes," I admitted, "but not out of guilt anymore, out of curiosity. I want to see if the change is real, if they're ready to meet me as an equal, not a savior." He smiled gently. "And if they're not, then I'll keep walking," I said, "because now I know how." We stayed in Paris for nearly 2 weeks, Michael and I, and it felt like living inside a dream I'd once thought belonged only to other people. The Seine shimmered gold beneath the bridges at sunset, and the air smelled faintly of rain and roasted chestnuts. I could finally look at the world without the constant calculation of how much time, money, or energy I owed someone else. Our days were simple: morning walks to the bakery for croissants, afternoons spent sketching or writing, evenings lost in quiet conversation. There was no need for grand declarations. Our silence was soft, not tense. Our pauses were full, not empty. Michael had a way of grounding me, not by holding me back, but by reminding me that peace didn't always mean solitude. Still, I couldn't shake the echo of my mother's words, "You helped us heal." I reread her letter often. It wasn't the apology I used to fantasize about. There were no tears on paper, no desperate pleas for forgiveness, but it was honest. And that honesty meant everything, for the first time in my life. My mother saw me not as an extension of the family, but as a person with her own boundaries, her own path. A few weeks later, another email arrived. The subject line was short: an invitation. It was from my mother again. Amanda was getting married to a man she'd met in one of her night classes. His name was Daniel, and from the way she described him, I could tell he was nothing like the men my sister used to chase. She said he was kind, steady. He worked at a logistics company and loved hiking. My mother said Amanda had insisted on paying for half of the wedding herself. Half. That single word hit me harder than I expected. Amanda, contributing, taking responsibility, growing. At the end of the message, my mother wrote, "I understand if you choose not to come, but if you ever feel ready, we would love for you to be there. No pressure, no expectations, just family. Just." For hours I sat staring at that line. Just family. 2 words that once suffocated me now felt different, lighter, tentative, but no longer a chain. Michael found me that evening sitting by the window, the emails still open on my laptop. "Everything okay?" he asked, placing a cup of tea beside me. "They invited me to the wedding," I said quietly. He nodded, thoughtful. "How do you feel?" "I don't know," I admitted. "Part of me wants to go, to see if it's real, if they've truly changed. But another part of me is terrified." What if being there pulls me back into old patterns? Michael reached for my hand, his fingers warm around mine. You're not the same person anymore. Delia, you can visit without surrendering. You can love them and still protect yourself. That night, I dreamed of my childhood home, the scent of my mother's cooking, the echo of my father's booming voice, Amanda's laughter spilling down the hallway. In the dream, I wasn't angry. I was just watching, as if standing outside a house I once lived in but no longer belonged to. When I woke up, I realized something quietly profound. I didn't need their validation anymore, whether I went to the wedding or not. My story had already changed. The power had shifted. I no longer lived in reaction to their expectations. Weeks passed. I moved again to the Italian coast this time, teaching online in the mornings and writing in the afternoons. My travel blog, once a private outlet, had begun to attract readers. Strangers sent messages saying my words made them feel less alone, that they too had walked away from toxic families, that they too were learning to breathe again. Each message felt like a piece of connection built on truth rather than obligation. And for every person who thanked me, I silently thanked them back. Michael visited when he could, staying for short stretches between projects. Our relationship had evolved into something steady and quiet, not the feverish attachment I used to mistake for love, but a partnership built on respect and space. He never tried to fix me, never asked me to hurry my healing. He simply walked beside me, matching my pace. One afternoon, as we watched the sunset bleed into the horizon over the Amalfi Cliffs, he asked softly, "If you did go back, what would you say to them?" I thought for a long moment before answering. I'd tell my father that control isn't love. I'd tell my mother that peace bought with silence isn't peace. And I'd tell Amanda. I paused, swallowing the lump in my throat. I'd tell her I'm proud of her, even if it took everything falling apart for her to find her strength. Michael smiled. That sounds like closure. Maybe, I said. Or maybe it's the start of something new. That night, I sat alone on the balcony, the sound of waves breaking against the rocks below. I opened my laptop and began to write a letter not to send. Not yet, but to prepare my heart for whatever came next. Dear Amanda, I heard you're getting married. I'm happy for you truly. I know the road here wasn't easy, but you made it on your own this time. That means more than you probably realize. I want you to know that I never left because I stopped loving you. I left because I needed to love myself too. I needed space to become someone who could forgive, not from weakness, but from strength. If I come to your wedding, it won't be as the sister who fixes things, it'll be as the sister who finally believes in you. Love, D. When I finished, I didn't cry, I just sat there, letting the words breathe, feeling their weight settle like soft sand. The next morning, I booked a one-way flight home, not a promise, not a surrender, but a choice. I didn't know if I would attend the wedding or simply arrive quietly and observe from the background. But I knew this, whatever awaited me there, it couldn't undo who I'd become. For the first time in years, I was going home not because they needed me, but because I chose to go. If you've ever had to walk away from the people you love to find peace, I hope my story reminds you of this truth. Distance doesn't always mean abandonment. Sometimes it's the space love needs to grow honestly. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps me keep telling stories that speak to the quiet courage inside all of us. And if you've ever faced the pain of choosing yourself over family expectations, I'd love to hear your story in the comments below. Remember, walking away isn't the end. Sometimes, it's where healing finally begins.